Welcome back. Today's video, we're going to be looking at why I'm still using a 5dsr, because I keep getting asked. I keep getting DMs about, are you not getting this? You're not getting the Fuji 50 or 100 or the... So I want to talk you through why it is that this, hang on, there it is, there. This is still my camera, and there's many reasons for it. So brace yourself for some nerdy tech and some thrifty spending. One of the many problems with being a professional photographer is the cost of equipment, because it directly affects how much money you make. And anyone who tells you, well, it paid for itself in 6 shoots, doesn't understand how to run a business properly. That is not the ethos you want to be going in with. And we are going to have a video in the future with my accountant where we talk about how to work out how much money you should actually spend on kit, and not just buying kit you think you need. So we'll go into that in a separate video. But now we're talking about the 5dsr. Now I've got 2 of these 5dsrs, and I also have its counterpart, the 5ds. And this is just in case we have an issue with moire. Because apparently this one doesn't do it. Although, to be honest, I've been shooting with the 5dsr for many years, and I've never had an issue with moire. So this just becomes the behind-the-scenes camera, which is why it's got a 35mm prime on it. In my opinion, the best storytelling lens if you can't handle a 28. So yes, very good bit of kit. So why am I using them? Why am I still using them? First of all, let's talk about why I use it in the first place, and that is because of resolution, cost, usability. They're great reasons to use a camera. Now, the reason I haven't upgraded to something better is because I can't find what that thing is. And that's not to say there's not better cameras out there. There are better cameras in terms of image quality, like the Hasselblad series or the Phase 1 series or the Fuji medium format series. But they come with some slight drawbacks, number one being cost. Now, like we said earlier about having to have redundancy as a photographer, I have 3 of these. 1, the other one I'm not sure what it is actually, 2, and then 3. I also have other cameras as well, but like these are my 3 identical cameras for work. I need 2 for any given job, and 1 to be in the repair shop at any given time. Thankfully, these don't break that often with the way that I use them, but it's always good to have that redundancy. Also, sometimes we run dual sets. So we'll have 2 sets running with 5dsrs, and then we've only got a 5ds as the backup camera. So having redundancy is important. I can't afford 3 Phase 1 cameras. They're like 50 grand each. I'm not spending £150,000 on cameras. I won't make any more money than I already do. It is not going to change the amount of income I have. If you can't afford 3 of them easily, don't buy it. Buy something cheaper. I could almost run my career still on a 5D Mark II. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. Now, yes, there are things like mirrorless cameras that have come out, but unless you're a wedding or funeral photographer or a classical concert photographer where you need complete silence, it's not an upgrade, it's just a different system. Going from a 50 megapixel DSLR to a mirrorless one is only an upgrade if you need to have no mirror sound. But for me, we're blaring out some classic 90s hip-hop or Fleetwood Mac, one of the 2 usually, and having a loud mirror doesn't matter. And actually, I prefer an optical viewfinder to a mirrorless viewfinder, a digital viewfinder. I've tried both. I just don't like digital viewfinders. I also don't like using the digital live view on the back of the screen. I prefer to look through the viewfinder when I can, and that's how I like to focus my camera. I prefer seeing it like that rather than digitally, and that's a personal preference. That is not a better or worse, that's just a preference. The other reason I'm still using it is because they still work. Now, believe me when I say that I am tight. I am so tight. My jacket here, this is made out of a tablecloth, which has been sewn into a jacket by my partner, which is kind of nice. I like it. But it's thrifty as well. And these cameras here, I will use them until they work no more. And even then, if one breaks completely, I'll still buy another one second-hand as a backup for the 2 that are running. I won't just upgrade them because there are newer cameras out there. That way, madness lies. If you're buying a camera because a new one has come out, that is not a good reason to spend money. If you're buying a camera because the one you have at the moment no longer does what you need, and I'm not talking about, oh, it's got slightly better image quality, that is nonsense. No one can see that image quality or dynamic range. I'm talking about it does something which you need. If I wasn't using this Cambo setup here for the tilt shift functionality, I might seriously consider buying a Phase 1 XF body with a 80 megapixel back because it has built-in focus stacking electronically. That's a reason to upgrade. The reason I went from the 5D Mark II to the 5DSR was because we shoot a lot of assets. And when I say assets, I mean digital assets. We might shoot like 5 chopped tomatoes, 5 bay leaves, and some garlic to be cut out and stuck onto the advert as additional things to the main shot we've done. When we were using 20 megapixel files, we could only shoot 2 items at a time. With a 50 megapixel file, we could just shoot them all and crop them later. Especially when we're using a good high resolution lens, which has zero distortion like this. This is the Milvis Lens. This is a very good bit of kit for what I do. That saves me considerable time. Likewise, I bought this here. This is a 6K RAW video camera. I don't need 6K RAW video quality for YouTube and for educational videos when I do my workshops that you download. They're sent in 1080p. But what it means is, if I've messed up the color grading, because the monitor I have, which is over here, is not as accurate as you might want it to be, if I've messed it up, I can fix it. Whereas when I was filming on these here, if I messed it up, I had to reshoot it. And that is a time-saving efficiency which was worth the cost. Now, there are some great functionalities of this camera. I've obviously stripped all the weather sealing off because I don't need it because I'm indoors. Wouldn't recommend that otherwise. But the reason I like this camera, it has a flash sync port. All professional cameras should have one of these. It has a USB 3 tether port, so we can tether using lovely powered tether cables, which do a great job. It has a good sync speed, 200th of a second, and it is built well. I mean, these get used loads. I'm using these all the time. They never skip a beat. When were they bought out? 2016? 2016. So it's 6 years old, 7 years old. I think I've had these for 7 years. They've not needed a repair yet. They've not been serviced yet. They've not had anything done to them. They're just as God intended them. But they're great bits of kit. Why would I sell them at a loss to buy something more expensive? It makes no sense. And you might be going, yes, but Scott, you'll make the money back anyway. And yes, I will. But if I just make the money and don't spend it, that is better in my mind, in my opinion. Also, cameras really don't make that much difference anymore. If I shot this next to a Phase 1, I don't think many of you could tell the difference. If I shot this next to a 70D or a 7D or some crop sensor camera, I don't think many of you could tell the difference unless it was a side-by-side test. Like if you put them side by side, of course you can see differences. But when do you ever shoot an ad campaign on 2 different camera bodies and put it side by side? Never. So yes, great bit of kit, very good value for money, the best camera that Canon currently has out for commercial photographers using flash. And I'll caveat it with that because it is not the best camera Canon have brought out. I think it's the R6 for sports and stuff like that. It's absolutely brilliant. But in terms of commercial photography, food photography, studio photography, these are just brilliant. They have a new mirrorless version of it, which is very good, of course. It's as good, slightly better. I don't think I can tell the difference from the eye, from what I've seen and what I've used it with. But you get the new RF lenses, whatever they're called, the new mirrorless lenses, which are slightly better again. But then I'm using a lens made in 1970, and it's still better than all of Canon's lenses. And then when I do want a Canon native fit lens, I'm using the Zeiss Milvis because it's better than any Canon lenses. So that's my opinion on it. That's why I'm still using this camera. That's why I've not upgraded to mirrorless. I don't have any vendetta against mirrorless. I nearly dropped my camera then. That would have been bad. I don't have any vendetta against mirrorless. I don't think it's like a bad design or anything like that. It's just, what does it really offer? And the same, even if Canon bought out a non-mirrorless better version of this camera, and it was 100 megapixels and more detailed, I don't lack detail and resolution in my work at the moment. It's not something clients are asking for more of, so why would I upgrade? And the camera industry, in terms of for professionals, has really stagnated. There's really not that much more for us commercial photographers to buy into, which is why they're starting to go for these hybrid, well, I believe why they're going for these hybrid cameras where they do really good video and really good stills and really high shutter speed and really high frame rate and really high resolution. Like just put everything in and eventually it will tick enough boxes for enough people that people buy it, because these camera companies have to stay in business for us as well. Like if Canon go bust, it's all good me saying, well, I don't need their newer cameras. I will need a new camera one day. So it's important that these camera brands do keep selling stuff so they can keep researching, and maybe one day they'll do the one upgrade that I really want. Greater bit depth in colors. That would be sweet. If they went for the bit depth of a Phase 1, I would absolutely upgrade, because a lot of my work is monochromatic. So having an extra few million red tones would be incredibly useful for me, because we have to light very carefully in order to not create banding. So that I could go for. That is one of the main reasons I often contemplate getting a phase back on this camera here instead of the Canon camera. Anyway, that's why I'm using a 5DSR. That's why I've not upgraded. That's why we don't use mirrorless. And that's why I think you should buy a 5dsr as well. I do believe it is the best bang for buck in terms of a camera in 2022. These are just good.